Vice President of the United States is a key figure in the U.S. government. In this video, we will explore many interesting facts about the Vice Presidency, including who the current Vice President is, how they are elected, and what their responsibilities are. We will also answer several common questions about the Vice President's role. Who is the Vice President of the USA? As of 2021, Kamala Harris is the Vice President of the United States. She made history in 2021 as the first woman, the first Black woman, and the first person of South Asian descent to hold this position. She serves under President Joe Biden and plays a critical role in his administration. Before becoming Vice President, Kamala Harris was a U.S. Senator from California. She has a background in law, having worked as a district attorney and later as the Attorney General of California. As Vice President, she supports the President's agenda and works on important issues like immigration, climate change, and public health. Will the Vice President run for President? The Vice President can run for President if they choose to. Some past Vice Presidents have gone on to become presidents. For example, Joe Biden was Vice President under Barack Obama before becoming President himself in 2020. However, not all Vice Presidents decide to run for President. The decision depends on many factors, including the Vice President's popularity, political party support, and personal ambitions. Some Vice Presidents, like Al Gore, ran for President and lost, while others, like George H.W. Bush, were successful. Are Vice Presidents elected? Yes, the Vice President is elected, but not separately from the President. In the U.S. presidential elections, the President and Vice President are elected together as a team. When people vote for the President, they are also voting for the Vice President on the same ticket. The Electoral College is the system used to elect both the President and Vice President. In this system, each state has a certain number of electors based on its population, and these electors vote for the President and Vice President according to the popular vote in their state. Can the Vice President make laws? No, the Vice President cannot make laws. The power to make laws in the United States belongs to Congress, which is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives. However, the Vice President has an important role in the Senate. The Vice President is the President of the Senate, and they can break a tie vote when the Senate is equally divided. This means that if there is a 50-50 split on a law or decision in the Senate, the Vice President can cast the deciding vote. This has happened several times in history. For example, in 2021, Kamala Harris cast several tie-breaking votes in the Senate. How is the Vice President elected? The process of electing the Vice President is tied to the presidential election. Both the President and Vice President are elected through the Electoral College. When people vote in a presidential election, they are technically voting for electors who will then vote for the President and Vice President. Each state has a number of electors equal to its number of senators and representatives in Congress. The electors vote based on the popular vote in their state. The team, President and Vice President, that gets the most electoral votes wins the election. Which Vice President shot someone in the face? One of the most unusual events in recent vice presidential history involved Dick Cheney, who was Vice President from 2001 to 2009 under President George W. Bush. In 2006, Cheney accidentally shot his friend Harry Whittington during a hunting trip in Texas. Cheney was aiming at a bird, but the shot hit Whittington instead. Luckily, Whittington survived, but the incident became big news at the time. It was a reminder that even vice presidents can find themselves in unexpected and strange situations. Where does the vice president live? The vice president has an official residence at the United States Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C. This house has been the official home of the vice president since 1974. Before that, vice presidents had to find their own places to live, which was sometimes difficult. The Naval Observatory is a large historic house with a big yard. It is located in a quiet area of Washington, D.C., and it provides a comfortable and secure place for the vice president and their family to live during their time in office. Which vice president was arrested for treason? One of the most dramatic stories in American history involves Aaron Burr, who was vice president under Thomas Jefferson from 1801 to 1805. After his time as vice president, Burr was accused of treason. He was allegedly planning to create an independent nation in the center of North America, separate from the United States. Burr was arrested and put on trial for treason in 1807. However, he was eventually found not guilty, but the incident damaged his reputation, and he spent the rest of his life in relative obscurity. Why is the vice president not a member of parliament? In the United States, the government is based on the separation of powers, which divides the government into three branches. The executive branch, led by the president and vice president, the legislative branch, Congress, and the judicial branch, the courts. The vice president is part of the executive branch. They work with the president to run the country, but are not members of Congress, the legislative branch. This system is different from countries like the United Kingdom, where members of the government can also be part of Parliament. The U.S. system keeps these branches separate to avoid giving too much power to one part of the government. This video explores the important role of the vice president in the U.S. government, from their election process to their duties and historical moments. Whether it's breaking a tie in the Senate or making history as Kamala Harris has done, the vice presidency is a unique and essential position in American politics. I appreciate your attention.